Hello, and thank you for downloading Witness from the BBC World Service with me, Mike Lanshin. And today I'm taking you back to March 1998 and a Serbian military attack on fighters of the separatist Kosovan Liberation Army, which would eventually lead to the breakup of Serbia.
The Serbian offensive against separatist Albanians in Kosovo is continuing. The operation has been strongly criticised by the American Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, who said Washington wouldn't tolerate a return to bloodshed in the Balkans.
About 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock in the morning, we just saw about 2,200 soldiers or police. They were coming up.
Ethnic Albanian refugees continue to stream across the hills of central Kosovo. This baby was born during the flight from the village of Prekaz, which is at the heart of the Serbian security operation.
I remember we'd just woken up. It was 7 a.m. and I went outside to help my mother bring in firewood. Then I heard the noise of the tanks.
10-year-old Besarta Jashari is in her family's sprawling compound in the small Kosovan village of Prekaz as the Serb security forces, with armoured vehicles, tanks and artillery, gather on the surrounding hillsides to begin their assault on the village.
I saw my grandfather outside and asked him, "Grandad, what's happening?" He said, "Nothing, my dear. The Serbs are going to another village. But off you go, get inside, take the others with you." After a while, I heard the tanks shelling and then the fighting started.
A prominent family in Kosovo's majority Albanian population, the Jasharis had a history of violent opposition to Serbian rule. Besarta's uncle, Adem Jashari, was one of the founders of the Kosovan Liberation Army, KLA. He was the main target of the massive Serb operation.
When my grandfather told me to get inside, he also spoke to my mother and he told her the truth. So the women took us into the house and put mattresses in the room for us to stay in. We were sheltering there for 3 days and 2 nights.
And what were you thinking? What was going through your mind?
I kept asking my mother, "Are we going to get killed?" And every time she replied, "No, everything will be okay." She said that Grandpa and Uncle Adem were alive and they would not let the Serbs get anywhere near us. To tell the truth, I can't remember when it was night and when it was day, because our house was set on fire and it was always bright. I couldn't tell night from day.
The 3-day siege that followed between the powerful Serbian forces of President Slobodan Milosevic and the heavily outgunned Jasharis was to become part of Kosovan folklore. In the old communist Yugoslavia, Kosovo had enjoyed some autonomy from Belgrade, but as Greater Yugoslavia split apart, Serbia's President Milosevic wanted to prevent the Kosovans from following the example of Bosnia and Croatia breaking away. By the late 1990s, there were armed confrontations between the Serb police and the ethnic Albanian KLA guerrillas, led by Adem Jashari. The bearded and heavily built rebel leader Jashari was often on the run. But to the 10-year-old Besarta, he was just Uncle Adem.
I remember a lot of things about my Uncle Adem. I remember how he always liked to join in with our games. He always tried to keep what was going on in Kosovo away from us. He would just come and play as if nothing was happening. I knew that he was a member of the KLA, but not that he was its commander. Our parents kept it from us, so all I knew were the nice things.
But Besarta's childhood was about to come to an end with that 3-day onslaught by the Serbs. Slobodan Milosevic was determined to crush the rebels and their families.
After they killed my grandfather and my grandmother and Uncle Adam and all the others who had been fighting outside the house, the Serbs saw there were still people shooting at them from inside. And so they began to shoot at us too, with heavy weapons and tanks.
At some point, Besarta isn't clear when, the Serb assault did subside. She ventured outside, but was immediately forced back into the now gutted building as the gunfire began again.
Then it was just me and my sister left alive. She was wounded. The Serbs had come very close and I could hear them talking in Serbian through the bullet holes in the walls. So I ran into the other room and hid. I remember seeing Adam's wife's dead body near me, so I played dead. The Serbs came and started touching people to see if they were alive. They saw Adam's body and were talking and laughing. And then they saw that I was alive, and so they took me to this field just above the house. On my way there, I saw my sister, the last one I was with, and I told them, "She's my sister, she's alive." I pleaded with them to stop and help her, but they didn't let me help her. They took me away and put me in a car.
Besarta's sister was among more than 50 members of the Jashari family killed in the attack on their compound. Not just KLA fighters, but women, small children and the elderly. Besarta was the only survivor. Gruesome video images of the dead bodies laid out beside the bombed-out houses were screened across the Balkans and beyond. It was a watershed moment. Support for the KLA guerrilla movement surged, as did the protests against Serbian rule on the streets of Kosovo's capital, Pristina. And by March of the following year, NATO began a 78-day bombing campaign against Serbia's President Milosevic that eventually forced him to withdraw his forces from Kosovo. It would take another 10 years before Kosovo declared independence with international backing. Serbia still refuses to recognise its status. Besarta Jashari was brought up by her only surviving brother in Pristina, where she still lives with her husband and son. Like her country, Besarta has slowly put her life back together.
I always remember my mother hugging us tightly, trying to stop us being afraid and giving us bread and water. When I think about all that happened with my family and with Kosovo, this makes me move forward. But there are nights when I go to sleep and I close my eyes and I think, I don't know why I wasn't killed. I can only say it was the work of God.
Besarta Jashari was speaking to me, Mike Lanchin, for Witness. And for details of our complete range of downloads and our terms of use, go to bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.